This is her first boyfriend, right? And
Boogie is.
yes, first boyfriend.
Let's introduce our guest today. He is the man behind the major trending viral sensation, The Dark Sad Life of Boogie2988. Let's introduce Mike. Mike, how are you, man?
Hello, everyone. Hello. Thanks
Good
for
to see
having
you.
me.
Yeah, man. Glad
Ahoy
you're
there.
here. Well, let's pop you in the middle. Blabs, get out of there.
Here I am in the middle.
So, Mike, how are you, man?
I'm good. I'm enjoying this week. It's been fun. A month ago, I didn't have a YouTube channel, and now I have a YouTube channel, and there's a documentary out, so it's fun.
Mike's channel, with one viral video, has more subscribers than we do, with 54,400 subscribers over the course of a week. So, congratulations! We need to catch up. Hit the subscribe button.
Yes,
Mike
please
is
subscribe. Please
Yes.
subscribe. I need to make all the money I spent back on the documentary. So.
Are you
let's talk about
monetized now already?
I'm monetized, but I think
Should.
he showed his what he called his meat sack, and also the fact that there are prostitute reenactments and sexual content. I have limited ads, but you know what? Money is just one component of life.
True.
Art and creativity; these are all valuable.
Okay.
All right. I love your mindset or mindsack. Okay. So
he's not Boogie, you realize, right?
no, well, I know, but he said Boogie showed his sack or whatever, whatever. So
Yeah.
Yeah, he showed
but
his
you
meat
appreciate.
sack. I thought it was testicles, and I thought the whole thing was gonna get shut down. But it's actually not testicles. It is in fact part of the pelvic area.
The gunt.
That just also
I believe
happens
it's a
to
gunt.
look- yeah, whatever. That happens to look like testicles.
Oh God.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. Let's move past the testicle thing. Let's talk about the origin of this.
Thank you.
When did you reach out to Boogie to make this happen? What kind of access did you have? And let's go start there.
Yeah, so about a year ago, I've been running sort of corporate video businesses, always made video content for my profession and business, and just started to move into not making videos for companies or entities or for purposes of commercial, but just for fun, which I had done sort of behind the scenes. But I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, what type of content could I make? I was watching these video diary channels or video essay type, like takedown type videos. And I saw the Sunny V2 video on Boogie getting like 5 million views. About a year ago, it was like Boogie2988 deserves his failure. So I'm like, that's interesting. Obviously there's this market for kind of analysis of individuals or pop culture sort of situations in these tight, documentaries, in that case, 10-minute voiceover, screenshots of tweets, stuff like that. I'm like, all right, well, should I make that? And I thought about, could I just make those and be in that sort of community? And then I'm like, well, how would that stand out from the 8,000 channels that are already trying to replicate that sort of format? So I figured, hey, I have all these cameras, I have all the production, commercial level production abilities and talent on my team. And so I'm like, hey, well, what if I hit up him and instead got actual access instead of me just talking about this topic and giving my opinion? Why don't I try to get cinematic access? And I just emailed Boogie. This is probably December last year. And he got back to me very quickly. I had emailed a few other channels. I was scrolling basically all the Sunny V2 videos. I was scrolling all the, Turkey Tom videos or the Right Opinion or just these different channels. And then I made a list of all the people they had covered. And I'm like, hey, well, let's just see who would want to do something. And Boogie got back to me. I had a few other sort of people get back to me. But Boogie was the one that kind of came together the fastest. And there I went out and started shooting probably 3 weeks after our first call. I was in a mode where I'm, you're starting a new business. You just got to jump into it. You don't know exactly the format, what it's going to be. We had the first day we filmed probably 5 hours of that sit down interview, which we only used probably 2 minutes of in the full documentary, and then filmed a bunch of stuff that didn't get used, and then kept filming. So
what type of access did you have? Were there any rules or stipulation that he laid down? I mean, it seemed like you had access to bank accounts. Obviously, you're filming him in a tub with his girlfriend. Like it seemed like you had pretty unlimited access.
Yeah, I mean, the beginning, I had no incentive. There was a whole rumor in the Boogie community. Once we dropped the trailer, it was like, oh, Boogie paid for this. Like, he sold his crypto and paid for some PR piece. Because, if you Google my name or Google my company, you're going to see like, oh, it's a commercial video company. Maybe Boogie hired them. And that was the whole thing I didn't want. Like from the beginning, I'm like, there's no incentive for me to make a documentary at this stage of my life that is commercial. Like, it's not a marketing video for you. The only way I'm going to do this, Boogie, is if it's just like what the people would find to be the accurate depiction, right? If I'm coming in making a puff piece, this is going to make me kind of look, it's just dumb. It's not entertaining, and it's not fun to work on because I can just go do that for some random corporation. So anyways, yeah, I was like, hey, if you're willing to basically make whatever, then I'll do it, and I'll put everything I have into it and try to make this thing sick. And with the exception of like his ex-wife, I think she didn't want to be in it, and then his roommate. And then, but those were the only two things that were kind of off limits. And then from there, we just started, and basically I was kind of coming up with all the scenes. I would sit there and be like, hey, let's talk about this, or like, let's go in the bathtub, and I wasn't trying to create scenes that weren't a depiction of the reality, but because you're there filming, you do have to stage certain things and put them in position of things that they do. So there is a reality TV component to anything like this, but ultimately it's all stuff that depicts his life.
How much of it, you say, kind of staged, like what, give us an example of what was staged in this setting. Was it, I don't know.
Stage is a tough word. I mean, there's staged and there's directed, right? Like, and I think the tough thing, if you just go film if someone's just following you around with a camera, you're going to film forever to get a small amount of content that actually depicts what your life is, right? I mean, and most people, if someone's just standing here with a camera, I'm just going to sit here and be like, what are we doing? Right. So every documentary you watch, it's directed. I mean, they're not wasting hundreds of days just filming random footage. There is a purpose. So when we say stage, there's a difference between like faking something that didn't actually happen and whatever, and directing a scene that is happening in their life, but sort of saying, hey, stop, let me get the camera set. So in the case of like the card scene where he's going up and selling his cards, that was something he was going to do that day regardless and go sell those cards. It's just that we had to say, all right, can you guys sit here? We're going to film from these angles. Like, so it is staging it, but it's not staging in the same way you would stage a fake prank, right? Or stage something that isn't actually happening at all, and you're just completely fabricating. So almost all the scenes are directed in some sense, or else it wouldn't be 55 minutes. It would be like this long sort of live stream. So, right. Yeah.
We had Boogie on, and we did an interview with him, and Adam had a really hard time with that. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, Adam, but I felt like we got done and you were like, I just don't want to fucking deal with this guy anymore, because you felt like it was all just kind of bullshit Boogie speak, where he's just kind of talking in circles and saying everything that he thinks you want to hear at the time to make him sound good.
Well, I could speak for it. It felt like I was sitting in an intervention and he was, trying to tell everyone how he understands how he's fucked up, and like he's realized and he's moved on. Now we can, I understand what I did wrong, and like everything's fine now. It's like, okay, I don't want to be a therapist. The DSP interview was way too long and it was exhausting, and I don't want to be people's therapists. Like, I get like interviewing people who don't want to actually face reality, or like that's kind of the vibe. Like he said that he was better, but like nothing's actually changed. So like, okay, sure. I didn't believe him. I'd never met him before that moment, so it was exhausting again.
I guess.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's definitely complicated in that way. I do think for him, it's mostly he's got a ton of anxiety. It appears, and he has a certain fixation on in kind of connection with that anxiety with any type of negative feedback and getting people to like him. And he definitely does take solace and comfort in people giving him advice and wanting to give him advice to better his situation. The degree he's genuinely engaging with that advice comes and goes. And therefore, I think when you're with him, it can be tough. I think you just have to go in prepared to have your own boundaries of how deeply you're going to engage emotionally with whatever trouble he's sharing. But this is not like exclusive to Boogie. People do this all the time.
Sounds like me.
And sometimes people that are even psychologically more healthy do this at certain times because we're in a certain mindset. So I don't think he's like a bad guy for it. And it's not that super uncommon. It just happens to be a combination of that and the fact that, at one point, a lot of people knew him and he was able to kind of maintain this persona and character that was so lovable and likable. And when that was sort of punctured through some negative series of events in his life, he kind of moved in a different direction.
Do you feel one of the things I really liked about the doc is about halfway through, you felt like you were just like an emotional, more or less whipping boy. Like you had to step back because you were getting drug into kind of the mindset that Boogie had because everything was just so depressing. Why don't you talk about that? Because that's something that you don't see very often where the documentarian turns the camera on themselves and be like, this sucks.
Yeah. I mean, like when you're editing or even you're shooting and then you're in the edit and anytime in life someone's telling you that they're about to die and that like life is over and that they're going to kill themselves or whatever, these extreme statements are kind of just punting any type of regular interaction. What do you say to that? You call the police? I mean, it's illegal to take your own life. Should I call the police? Should I do this? So after
did Boogie,
a while,
to be clear, did Boogie say he was going to?
No. But there was statements of illusion of your own death, and that you're like you might as well eat a chicken quesadilla, and it's this, and very, very, very deeply self-deprecating or sort of predictive of his own imminent death, as if he's like 87. I mean, he's 49, which, whatever, in his case, he might have some health things to make hurdles over. But in his case, also the health and the finances are connect because he has a deep connection with staying in this home, but he also has medical bills and all these other things that he has to sort of pick and choose where that cash flow that is coming in. And he has the lifestyle of someone that's making, 100,000, 120,000 in terms of the expenses, but he is making 30, 40, 50,000, and that's where the issues occur. But yeah, no, you did have to move away because it's, we had to go interview other people and just kind of when you're with him, you sort of get wrapped up in the world of Boogie, which isn't necessarily bad. It just, it's fun at times, and other times it's just like overwhelmingly self-deprecating and reminiscent.
What was the saddest part of filming? Because I think the one thing that people look at when people look at this documentary, and a lot of people are shocked that Boogie was so amped to ultimately promote it, because I think many people look at this and say, like, man, he doesn't look good at all. Like, there's at no point when you watch this documentary and be like, man, that's a really healthy individual, and I really hope he feels better. He comes off as a professional victim, almost one who wallows in his own victimhood. And I think most people were really shocked at how much he is promoting the documentary and something that would be seen as a negative for him. Do you feel in your time spent one-on-one with him, following him around and seeing his life experiences, do you think that you did a good job of portraying his day-to-day life and that he himself wallows in the victimhood status that he has?
Oh yeah, I mean, but he bounces between. I mean, he can be very rational at times. He's not a dumb individual. I mean, the guy built one of the more iconic. There's a reason we're sitting here on this podcast talking about this guy. He was an innovator in the early days of a platform. He's gotten popular on a bunch of different platforms, right? Twitch, TikTok, Twitter. So it wasn't a one-hit wonder. So the guy is focused to some extent on content output, and he does understand marketing and the internet. But it's just he has these intense, anxiety-filled fixations that cause him to become completely irrational and to focus on any type of negative feedback and try to then convince those people otherwise. And there's so much conversation when you're filming with him and hanging out with him about, well, I can make my comeback if I did this, right? And it's usually all these things that are about earning back people that don't like him, as opposed to making content that creates demand for that content, and therefore people like you from that, which is generally how people become liked on the internet or in general, is making a product that is associated with you. So yeah, I think that that's really he'll be having a normal fine day making content. There'll be some niche amount of negative feedback. He'll focus on that, and then he'll take action to combat that negative feedback, which then creates more negative feedback. And it's really unfortunate that I think if you could go back to him in 2016, 2017, and he had that sort of PR business manager or somebody that could really just be like, hey, let's not put that video out. He just never really had that. A lot of his friends are friends he met at the magic shop. They're nice guys. You see him in the documentary. He had his wife who didn't seem too much like a business person. He's never really had that manager or that sort of PR sort of strategist. And if he did, I think he'd still be probably just as big as he ever was, because they could have helped refine and kind of contain, like, hey, it's not worth putting out this video attacking your Reddit, right? Like, nobody cares. It's this niche little world. Or like, let's not say that stuff on live stream, right? So
there's a point in the documentary where he says that you suggested him getting a job. Number one, is that true?
It's the obvious conclusion. You can't talk too much with him about his situation without that. I mean, within 5 minutes, that is an option that's coming up. I mean, if you're not making enough money on YouTube and you've tried for multiple years to increase your YouTube output and your expenses are reasonably, given your health situation, as low as they can be, what is the other? I mean, he doesn't have like this massive amount of debt. We need to file bankruptcy and that's going to solve anything. So getting a job is the only natural conclusion. So absolutely. So the first time we filmed Down, we kind of did all these things. I got him a trainer. So there'll probably be some extended scenes on his channel about him working out and creating a diet. We did a makeover where he got, his hair done and stuff, but those didn't really sort of fit the arc. But the one thing we did was go to a recruiter, which I had scheduled and sort of coordinated. And it was weird because I was just calling him like, hey, I'm making this documentary about this guy that lives in your area. He's popular on the internet. Could we come film and, like, help? Would you be down to help him as a component of filming, get a job? So, yeah.
Did the recruiter itself, that's like one of the most disastrous scenes in the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
He's like, well, I'm also a predator and I'm a felon. And if you look hard, you'll see that I'm associated with X and blah, blah, blah. to the point to where the recruiter she's almost like laughing at him. Like, are you serious? Like, you're really
Yeah.
going to come in here and say all these things?
Yep.
Okay, so to be clear, the recruiter was real, right? Was that whole interaction like authentic?
Authentic is a tough word with Boogie. This guy is.
I'm sorry. I think that's funny.
No,
That's a
it's
great word.
true. He's an entertainer, and the line between entertainment and reality for Boogie is very nuanced. Anytime a camera's around, or even a camera's off, he's almost, when I talk about on the phone, he's very performative, and not in a negative way. He's just, I think, has an art or kind of a leaning towards performance and drama and being funny and trolling. I mean, he likes the Andy Kaufman sort of thing. He likes kind of a lot of these sort of performance comedy types of things. So
I didn't believe him at all. Like I said, it was like that crackhead trying to convince us at the intervention that he was fine so we can go back and continue smoking crack. Like, that's the energy that I was getting. Like, I don't believe what you're saying. You're just trying to convince me that you believe what you're saying, that that's your situation. And I couldn't like take him seriously because of that, because it was so obvious to me that he wasn't giving us his authentic self.
yeah, I think in a case like that, in my view, he just has a deep anxiety about you thinking he's something, and he wants to convince you otherwise, and he cares a lot about what you think about him. And
Yeah,
to the extent that he will project,
he admitted it,
and really
if I
try
remember
to
right.
show this. And I don't think that that's it can on one hand, does it feel disingenuous? Yes. I don't think it's disingenuous as much as it is someone that is really concerned about your opinion of them and really wants you to think that they've got it under control, even if they don't. And I think
You're
that
100%. I
it
agree.
is it's more of a tragic situation than it is someone that's trying to deceive
Malicious.
you, because he doesn't
Yeah,
get
yeah.
anything out of it. I mean, other than you kind of going, "Oh, that's good, Boogie. A good thing you got your you've got your mindset right." Like, what is he scam? Is he actually taking your money? And is he? So I think one of the things
Yeah.
with this whole Boogie thing, it's crazy that in some way, you have like the people online that have done ridiculous things, like R word and actually hurt children and different things. Boogie almost gets caught up with the same degree of negative feedback. You would have thought, based on the comments in the documentary and just in general, that Boogie was a pedophile or something,
He
right?
also looks like one too, so.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And he even has like sort of this thing. But at the end of the day, I think most of it with Boogie is just his own inability to process negative feedback and then not have to make that conversation with you where he's convincing you that he's not a bad guy. And that is, it's a really bad cycle if you're in the public eye, that you can't have someone make a negative video about you and then you spend a whole month of your channel focusing on that feedback.
That's
yeah.
like spilling gas on your feet and throwing the match down. Like, that's
yeah,
that
you almost
kind of
have to give him a branch to stop talking about it, right? Where you just take because he's got good takes. He's got fun. He's funny. He's great to have conversation with. You go out to dinner with him. He's great he's a very sociable, interesting person. It's just when he gets sort of fixated on these things. So that's why I think in some way, if he almost ever had a co-host or a manager or whatever, that someone just like, get him out of these sort of mental fixations, he could have continued to be a great broadcaster. But yeah,
there was a, so after the job, just chaos, and the recruiter, he makes a phone call to you pretty much saying like, I got 4 million subscribers on YouTube. I got 4 million. I'm like one of the OGs. And he's kind of like propping himself up in his head. Do you feel that Boogie can still be successful on YouTube?
Well, I do. I think that he'll always be legend, right? I mean, there's been so many things, even in the past 3 years, every 2-3 months, where he just goes, viral, at least on the platform. So even all the people, let's say it's a collective of 50 million people in the past 3 years that have genuinely watched deep view engagements on some type of Boogie takedown or Boogie whatever. It's probably in that number. They'll always check back every 3 to 6 months, right? So he'll always have a level of amount of people that he's so famous in the past decade that you'll all like, even if it's every 6 months, the total amount of people will always be able to pull 5 to 10,000 views. Will it be an income for him? More than $2,000-$3,000 a month? Maybe not. He might move into more. He might have to go find some way to go make a few grand on the side, and then YouTube can just be some type of small
Supplement.
business that he owns. But in terms of him becoming successful again, in terms of, let's say, even pulling 50K a video, I think he would have to be able to take this documentary hype and focus purely on fulfilling on his word of not focusing on drama and being able to maintain, just like the video he put out the other day. I think it was about some Spider-Man game and some analysis of some component of it. And if he could do that and focus on that, drop a video like that every 2 days, stay away from some of the, personal ramblings, maybe do that just like once a month or something. That's usually what went wrong. And I think he could probably maintain 20 to 30 to 40,000 views a video, which is probably enough to almost cover his current expenses, but he'd probably have to do a combination of moving out of the house, maybe getting an extra roommate that could pay for some things. Maybe his girlfriend could work and provide some income, and a combination of that, and maybe like adding in a supplemental way to sell some magic cards on the side, flipping or doing some things. He could have a nice life. It's really stressful when you have too high expenses and you're trying to hold on to a lifestyle versus just making the adjustments.
One of the adjustments that was made in his lifestyle was I guess he spent a lot of money on hookers. But one of the saddest scenes in the movie was you speak with a hooker who literally stopped being a hooker after she slept with Boogie. How did you get a hold of the hooker? And what was that like? That interaction?
Yeah, well, I mean, we reached out. I mean, I think I worked with Boogie in the beginning of the documentary, you're going through all his, like, who do you know, right? From Frank Hassel all the way over to, kid behind the camera, just really looking at the whole landscape of how we're going to tell his story, his personal life. What are the things that are already super documented that we don't need to like go back into? And yeah, you hit up as many people as you can. And that was one that, obviously you're going to keep that anonymous because it's not probably something that person's going to want to put out there publicly. And yeah, but there was other people that said no. Frank Hassel said no. A lot of people also I reached out to, but I didn't even have a YouTube channel. All I had was like my corporate production company. So it was, you're reaching out to people like even a Keemstar who ended up really promoting the film at the end because he loved it. I couldn't get a Keemstar interview because it's like, who's this random dude emailing me with no YouTube channel? He's making like a documentary. How good is it going to be? Whatever. Mm-hmm. So we just kind of had to get who we could get. And outside of that, and then his friends, there really wasn't any other interviews. If we were to do this again, I think I could get probably better access because I think people can now see the type of product that's being made.
Oh, sure.
and want to be
now you got to do DSP.
Okay.
Yeah, I see a lot of comments about that. I see a lot of comments about Wings of Redemption, and maybe we do a trilogy cow documentary and sort of package it. The one thing I wish I would have, I didn't pay anybody to get really any access, but if I could go back, I would have paid to get his roommate. I would be like, Boogie, what's the number? I mean, because Boogie's had this roommate that's lived with him for 25 years, right? I mean, it's basically this guy that's been behind the scenes 30 feet away from all of this forever. And he was there. I met him. I know what he looks like, everything. And a lot of people don't think he's real. They think that his girlfriend is sleeping with him on the side. I mean, this is all rumors in the Boogie sphere. But he is such a unique individual, the roommate is, that I think if I could have got that interview, I would have paid a few grand for that, and I think I probably could have gotten it. But
That's awesome.
Wow.
That is awesome. But I'm serious. Okay, did Boogie though? Was Boogie like? I want to go back to this Hooker thing because how did you get a hold of them? Because it's usually you don't put Hooker on your LinkedIn.
Yeah, no.
How did you find them?
Yeah,
that is pretty crazy.
Everything's over email, right? And it was a combination of the people that Boogie had in his contacts, and I'm cold emailing and reaching out, and in some cases he would provide me phone numbers, or I would just text, or he would. There were some people or some situations he would make a group text, or some it's like, hey, just reach out. They don't really like me. Like in the case of Frank Castle, I did a DM, but yeah, cold email, texting. Just whatever. And then there were some people, yeah, LinkedIn was one. That's not the one for that situation, but yeah.
Hey, were you the did you sleep with that 450-pound
Yeah,
YouTuber
exactly.
named Boogie, and then you quit hooking? Is that
Exactly.
you? You know who it is?
Yeah.
Just trying to do an interview.
what was the most shocking thing that happened, or the biggest maybe realization or saddest? I don't know. It's just I feel like you walked into this vortex and you didn't quite understand the grass that you were walking into. Once again, we talked about the idea of you actually having to step back for a little bit because it was so bad. What was the kind of saddest, most depressing thing about the whole situation? Because it seems like it took a little bit out of you, to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely get, at least for people I know in my life, like I'm pretty obsessed with my own financial situation. I mean, I get super stressed and I have anxiety about different things. And whenever I meet someone and I start to, know them a bit, and I start to learn about how they spend their money, and I know it's being irrational, maybe holding on to certain expenses that are irrational to the extent that it's a consistent topic we're talking about. That's where it was really stressful. Just knowing we're driving around filming scenes, in the back of my head, I'm like, this dude should be live streaming right now and making $100 tonight because he's got $400 in his bank. And it is a tough thing to sort of balance, where there's only so much you can say to somebody and they'll only take a certain amount of action based on that. And
Man, maybe you shouldn't do DSP then.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's oh man.
Yeah.
I'm having PTSD right now from that interview.
Yeah. So,
holy shit.
But outside of that, I think the girlfriend thing was an obvious conflicting thing, right? Because you're like, oh, great. I mean, he's got someone to share this with. He means life is fucked, but he can share life with someone that understands his life is fucked. And it's nice to know that there's someone that loves someone in that type of situation, right? That makes you feel good. But then on the other side, you're like, well, is this a genuine connection, or is this a trauma-oriented, clashing of two people on the psychological fringe that ultimately won't be able to sustain this degree of intense love expression? So, and when you're watching it, you're looking for clues of like, well, does this person have borderline personality disorder? Is this someone that's going to be able to sustain this type of interest? There's a big age gap. What is that? How does that play into it? Is she manipulating him? Is he manipulating her? Are they both manipulating each other? It's really conflicting to be happy for him, because then there's this relationship that you're trying to process.
What was your thoughts on that? Because you talk about the idea of processing. You clearly have a guy who's damaged. You have a girl who very clearly has daddy issues, didn't have a daddy, right? And it just seems like that's also a disaster waiting to happen. And I obviously you hope it works out. I actually had the opportunity to meet them both in person about a month ago, and they both seem nice, but I wasn't sure if it was a bit or if it was real, if she was playing a character in the Boogie story, or if it was authentic or not. And that's the one thing I couldn't pick up. And I don't know, were you able to detect anything in there? I mean, whether it's
Oh no,
it's real
it's
or not?
definitely genuine. There's like I mean, she'd have to be a very, very skilled actress and I mean, they are spending all their time together and living together, and I don't think anyone's that much of a character actor that would go through with that. With her, it's tough. I mean, she's 20 or what was she,
Yeah, is it
21? I forget.
29, 28 years difference between the two?
Yeah, 29. So she's 20 or something. Or not, she's 19, right? Or I forget. But whatever it is.
Wait, who is this?
This is his girlfriend. This is her first boyfriend, right? And
Boogie is.
yes, first boyfriend. And there's a video on his channel that he dropped probably 3-4 days ago that was her full kind of solo interview, uncut, basically uncut. So it kind of gives you more clues into kind of her situation. But the interesting thing with her, I think, she basically became enamored with him very quickly, right? They connected over Instagram. They started, Snapchatting. They met up, and I think she said on the, a few calls in, she's like, "You're my soulmate," right? And when you take something like that with someone that's never had a relationship, that someone to some extent has a little bit of difficulty expressing the specific reasons why they're feeling this connection, it's not shocking that people would make the inference of borderline personality disorder. This is where you create a favorite person, right? And it's you fear abandonment, you fear being alone, and you meet this person and they're perfect to you, right? And because you treat them with this degree of love bombing that so they won't leave you, and you give them this, you put them on a pedestal, and everything's great in that phase. And
then you have Boogie, who's sitting on the other side, convincing her that he is exactly that person that deserves that type of admiration or
yes,
obsession.
and perhaps we're all amateur psychologists here, but
true, yeah, I'm certainly not a professional.
Yeah, but I think also in the case of Boogie, you're in this position where, finally someone's treating me with this level of respect, and
it's a perfect storm.
I'm perfect. And so they kind of fit in that way. And what may happen if this is the case of this, and it's not black and white, like they have this disorder or they don't, and there can be variations and ways things can work through. But if for this girl, that when that sort of cycle drops of that love bombing and he does maybe something wrong that clues her in to this guy is
pops the bubble,
perfect ideation that I had, she'll then retreat, and then because she fears abandonment, she'll actually abandon him because she's convinced that he will abandon her. Now, I didn't actually see, in my view, so many clues of that. I do think that they both might have a soft version of that where it's not so black and white and that it's going to end in some negative thing. I do think that it will at some point not be as good as it is right now for them. And if they're able to work through that and both, but for her, this is her first relationship and she's going to need to be able to see if she can circumnavigate the times that she's not going to like him as much. And she's never done that. And it's really only, I don't even know, 6 months at this point. So this is probably around the time where, things are going to maybe get a bit more intense in the next 3-4 months. And if that happens, I do think it'll be tougher for Boogie to maintain that positive, gamer review stuff, because he's going to want to be pulled back into the personal drama. Because when you're a single guy or a single girl, you're more likely to be inclined to want to self-express because you don't have that outlet. So I don't think that would be healthy if they don't work out for his career. But I do think I give it a 30% chance this thing does just be a long-term success. So I wouldn't rule it out, but we'll see.
30% chance. It's like it's somebody's like, you have a 30% chance of rain today. You're like, well, probably not going to rain.
Yeah. I mean, most relationships still work out. I think
true.
30% long-term success is a pretty high, in my view, of something working out. I would say for the rest of his life. So, you know,
love it.
Wow.
All right, so Adam, you have anything? Anything you want to?
No, I don't want to go further in than we've already gone. I think. Well, I'll just say you clearly have a very smart head on your shoulders where you can observe, and you've made obviously some great observations about his life. And I'll tell you what, I was not interested in watching this documentary at all, like zero interest, because we did that interview and I was just like, I didn't know anything about him before. I learned what I learned from the interview, and I haven't delved since. So when I heard that you were going to be on the show, I was like, all right, that'll be interesting, to hear about it. But after hearing your take on him and kind of seeing the way that your brain works, I'm actually kind of interested in seeing this documentary now. But not because of Boogie, because of you, because of the way that you seem to like see the whole picture of it. So you've actually convinced me that I'm interested in your documentary.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. And it for me, I literally went into it with the mindset of let's just have as much fun as possible, make for no reason the highest end, coolest, most interesting thing I could make, even it cost me way more than I will make back, and just have fun with it. And I hope people enjoy it. That's why I made it for fun.
Well, you set
now I really want you to do a DSP documentary.
I was going to say, so you set the standard very high, the bar very high, and that natural, the holy grail will ultimately be Dark Side Phil, right? And I'll tell you this right now, I'll shoot an intro email. I'll gladly shoot an intro email. I would love to see that back in, because there
Does he answer your emails anymore, Craig?
I haven't sent him one in 6 months, but
okay.
But I will gladly send that intro email if you are interested in tackling the beast that is Dark Side Phil, because we spent 5 hours with him, but we barely started peeling back that onion, and there's so much there. And oh my God, you want to talk about like 1 million views? No. We're talking like 10. Like, put it on pay-per-view, man. Put it on pay-per-view, and people will buy it.
I will highly consider it. I will definitely take a conversation with him and at least vibe out. The one thing I will say about Boogie is Boogie was 100% down, and a lot of other things or people or access points I've talked to, people, they have an agenda or they've got certain things. I think one thing that you want to give to Boogie is whatever shit people might want to talk about him, he let this thing happen and took it on the chin for what it is, and you got to commend him for that. But we'll see if Dark Side Phil has what it takes. So,
well, I'll say this: he does not.
Okay. Maybe I can get him. We'll see.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Great question though in the chat. Did you ever get the $14 back for buying Boogie food in the documentary?
I don't know. I don't know if
that means no.
Yeah, that's
I might have to shoot a Venmo. I have to shoot a Venmo request. Thanks for reminding.
Well, look, man, we appreciate you popping in today, Mike. You're a stud. You are going to be ridiculously successful at these documentaries. I encourage everyone to go watch The Dark Sad Life of Boogie2988.
I would say, it's just I'm so appreciative of all the comments, and anytime you're like, this is Netflix quality, and it's so fun. I mean, I spent a decade making training videos for some manufacturer in Illinois to train how to put ball bearings on a piece of rubber, and to go and which is fine. And I have a company that does that, and I love that company, and I do other things. But to finally put something out like this is just so fun, and to see people react to it and say my name, and it's like you're doing all this behind the scenes business for a decade. It's just so fun. All the DMs I've gotten on Instagram or wherever. So anytime you guys check it out, leave a comment, and let me know what you think. It's fun. So it's just so fun.
Well, whenever you're ready to announce your next project, let us know. We'll gladly have you on so you can talk about it. It'll be
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah.
Absolutely, guys.
Awesome, man. Well,
Thank you.
congratulations on the success. Great work. Everyone go check out Mike's channel over on YouTube, and obviously go check out the documentary. It sounds like you got a couple new viewers once we're done here with Adam and Plod. So
Yes. Thanks.
All right, Mike, thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate you.
Guys.
But what do you think about this? Leave us a comment down below. We read every single one of them. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button because you have found your home for common sense in the gaming and entertainment worlds.